Good morning, folks. How are you this morning? Did you have a good night's sleep? I had a great night's sleep. Slept like a log. They got me on these bloody pills, and boy, they knock you out. Yeah, what's today? 5:15 in the morning. I'm up and about again. And today, of course, is the 9th of March, 2013. They tell me I'm losing my marbles, I'm losing my memory, but no, I'm not. I'm training it. I'm going to train it to get better. Anyway, I've got my tie on this morning, and notice that. And the reason I got my tie on, and if you ever see me with my tie on, you know I'm serious. I'm talking about serious stuff. If I've got my hat on, I'm trying to be jovial. But if in my open neck shirt it's the same. But if I've got my tie on, look out, I'm having a go at someone. I'm going to tune someone up. And the person I'm going to tune up this morning is a bloke by the court by the name of Tony Couch, or Anthony Couch. He's a judge. He's an employment judge. That's what he does. He works for the government as an employment judge. And he was the judge in the court case between my former employee and I. Now, I want the government to sack this judge because he's hopeless. He put it across me. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that he did. First of all, I made a counterclaim. You know what a counterclaim is? If someone is having a go at you, someone is suing you for a certain amount of money because something you did wrong or supposed to have done wrong, you can counterclaim if you think that person has done something wrong to you and it cost you money. And it cost me a lot of money, and I did some counterclaims to some high-profile businesses, high-profile people. For example, I made a counterclaim from the national government. I forget how much the dollars it was, but it was a lot of money. I made a counterclaim because they bloody well ignored me. Because they've done nothing to help me change the law, because they introduced the law in the first place, and I made a counterclaim because it cost me thousands and thousands of dollars because of their incompetence, for their refusal to look at my case. And I made a counterclaim. I made a counterclaim about a law firm called Raymond Sullivan McGlashan, also known as RSM Law. They put it across me. They filed documents in the court that weren't signed or dated. They did things wrong. And I put a counterclaim in and said, listen, you've done this wrong, therefore I'm counterclaiming, it's cost me money, it's cost me my time. Jeff Goldstein was a barrister in Christchurch. He cost me my time, cost me thousands of dollars because he took instructions from me and he didn't have the qualifications to do so. So I had quite a few, 15 or 20 different organisations which I was counterclaiming against, and this bloody judge, Couch, kicked them out, wouldn't accept them, said I couldn't counterclaim. Yeah, the first thing Judge Couch did was have a conference call with the parties involved. So a conference call is where you get on the telephone, the judge, and the worker and the employer. And there were three of us supposed to be on this thing, you see. But what happened? Christine never showed up. She wasn't on the conference call. She was allowed to stay at work, earn money. I couldn't earn money. I had to be there on the conference call, but she didn't have to be. She just sent a lawyer along. Now the other thing was, he said, the judge said, is there anything you want to go back to mediation on? And I said, yes, I want to go back to mediation on the wages, because we want to get this sorted out. There's only a few $1,000s involved here, a few $100s, sorry. Let's get it sorted out, let's go to mediation on it. And she wouldn't do it. The lawyer said no. Christine didn't say no, because she wasn't on the conference call. But we weren't allowed to go back to mediation, and the judge didn't worry. He didn't care. And then I had evidence to present. I had to present evidence. And I presented evidence. I got my staff, all my former staff members, to write references about me, telling people what they thought of me. And that's some very good references. My accountant wrote a statement, and said that this Christine had shown tendencies to be dishonest and because things were wrong. And he threw it out. He threw all this stuff out, this evidence. I had a whole list of things, 29 things, I think, something like that, that Christine had done wrong. And I sent that list to the police. And the police, he wouldn't let me file that list of things he'd done wrong. This judge, he wouldn't let me file it. He wouldn't let me have it as evidence in court. Threw it out. Threw everything out that looked like it would help Christine win the case. Another thing the judge did, he let Christine and her lawyer state in court that I had a mental illness known as bipolar disorder. I jumped up and down when that happened, and I said, Judge, you can't accept that comment. You can't accept that. If you accept that I had bipolar disorder, then you have to discharge me. You can't charge me if I've got a mental illness. He didn't like that. He didn't like that. But he let it go. He let it go because he knew that it would be in the newspaper next day. And that was wrong. My privacy was breached because of that judge. The whole town knew that I had bipolar disorder 30 years ago. They didn't know it was 30 years ago. All they knew is they had a mental illness now. Not true. Not bloody true. It was a 2-day hearing we had, and at the end of it he said, excuse me, Mr. Bishop, but I'm going to have a discussion with the opposition. With Christine's lawyers. And prior to that, I had a whole list of stuff from the court, from the complaints, my police file, and a whole bunch of stuff on my police file, and I had it in my possession because I got it off the police. The judge wanted me to give this whole complete police file to Christine's lawyers so they could go over it and pick out stuff that might help her win a case. Jesus, that was terrible. But anyway, at the end of the day, we dismissed Christine because she was dishonest. And we proved to the court that she was dishonest. And the judge said in his statement, she wasn't dishonest. And therefore, because she's not dishonest, it was my fault for sacking her. At the end of the meeting, at the end of the hearing, and the summing up, the judge said, listen, I want to have a yarn to the lawyer, Christine's lawyer, because we've got some things to discuss. And you know what they discussed? They discussed case studies of previous studies of the law. And what happens is with case studies, if a judge makes a decision, future judges look at this decision and it becomes law. So they had this, and I wasn't involved. I was told I wasn't allowed to get involved with that. And when it was all over, we all went home. And the judge took a year, round about a whole year, to make a decision. And guess what that did to us? Margaret and I had to wait a year. Stress and anxiety, all this waiting, not knowing, not being able to go on holiday, not being able to spend any money, not being able to have the freedom of peace in our minds, because the judge could not make a decision. Took him 12 months to make a decision. And you know what the stupid law, you know what he said? Why he couldn't make a decision? Because of an earthquake. The earthquake was in Christchurch, not in Timaru, and there was a record. The whole court case was recorded online there for me to watch. They sent me the script because it was recorded. He could have made a decision the next day But he didn't. He took 12 months. He did it because he wanted to make me suffer. He wanted to make my wife suffer. And did we suffer? Yeah. When I heard the news that we'd lost that case, Christina won, I wrote a suicide note. I was totally exhausted. I wrote a suicide note to my doctor. Because I couldn't believe it. Depression, you wouldn't believe how depressed I was. And he did it. So what he'd done, by waiting so long, he activated my mental illness that I had 30 years ago and wanted to take my own life. Not only that, after that, I got cancer, prostate cancer. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, caused by stress and anxiety. It activated my bipolar disorder, caused by stress and anxiety. I've now been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, caused by stress and anxiety. My wife is going through the painful experience at the moment of shingles. Poor Margaret, she's nearly 80 years of age and she's got shingles. What causes it? Stress and anxiety. Does the judge care? Couldn't give a horse's donkey. Right? He doesn't care. Does the government care? No, they couldn't care. Why would they want to care? It's just another person. We are only bloody numbers to them. They still get their pay. Yeah, and this Court of Appeal is useless. Court of Appeal. I wrote to them. As soon as I heard the news, I wrote to them. And I said, listen, I don't have any money. I can't afford to appeal this thing. I want you to do something for me. Well, they wrote to me 12 months later, 12 bloody months later, they wrote to me and said they'd waiver the fees. They'd waiver the fee if I wanted to appeal the decision. It was calm. As soon as I said I would accept it, they then brought in the rules. And the rules said you can't do this because it's not in the public interest. Not in the bloody public interest. Everything that I've said today in this court case is not in the public interest according to the Court of Appeal. So where to now? What do we do now? Well, Mum and I were going to go on holiday to Scotland. Well, we didn't do that. We weren't able to do that. We were going to have a cruise around the islands on a big liner. We haven't been able to do that. You see, because we had to pay Christine $30,400 for her lawyer fees and other bits and pieces. You see, because this is the law in New Zealand. They took money from us. We were on a pension, Margaret and I now, so we can't go anywhere. We've spent our rainy day money. We've given it to Christine. And I want some compensation. I'm asking for $1 million. And I want the government now to get their bloody checkbook out and write me out a check for $1 million for the damage they've done to me and my wife. Yeah, why did you do that? John Key ignores me. Never answered a letter in his life, a letter or an email to me at all. Joe Goodhue, what the hell are you doing in Parliament? What have you done for me? I'm a senior citizen. I've been to you. What did you do? You got up and walked out of the room and went to see somebody else. Very, very arrogant lady. I'm sorry, Joe, but you've got to stick up for your people, the people that voted you in there. That's enough, don't you think? Enough for one day? Tune up. A tune-up to Judge Tony Couch and the national government. Do something. And listen in tomorrow morning. Come online and tell me what you think. See you later. Bye-bye.